Hello and welcome again to Leopard Street. This is episode 4, and in this one we are going to be fitting the point servos to board E, reassembling the board, and then running a few trains. First up, just a little apology, the video quality at the start of this one is a little bit ropey. I will be working on it. What you can see here is the board controller. And a couple of servos. This is before it goes in. Basically I need to just test these servos work and get them calibrated. This is a little ESP32. It talks to MQTT. As you sort of see the screen, I can't quite do screen grabs brilliantly at the moment. This in turn then talks to JMRI, which provides me the interface between the two over Wi-Fi. This is set up to drive a pair of points at the moment for this board, so I can throw them and clear them. So what we need to do when Hamfist here gets the camera at least vaguely pointing in the right direction, there's a little PCA servo controller on here. The two servos are connected to that. It can handle up to 16. At the moment it's just set for these two because this is all the board needs. The boards are in, and the initial purpose here is to get them centered. This basically so that when I fit them into the board, I know they're in the middle, and when I put the actuator arms on, I can have them in the midpoint. So here I have the little actuators. They're just little SG90 servos, very cheap on eBay and AliExpress. So here we go. Just put these two little arms on. At the moment they're just friction fits. They can be screwed on. The hardest part with these things is getting them to stand up straight. And this is in the midpoint, so now we can change this, and as you can see they move. The software is set up to move them slowly, and this is its initial range. So they just go between a throws position and a close position in JMRI, and this sends basically a message over MQTT that says closed or thrown. This board is also set up to respond to a command called mid, which as you can imagine sets them into the midpoint. These boards then need fitting onto the underside of the board. Here's a little 3D printed mount. Merg do various mounts. These are actually a little bit smaller, and unlike the Merg mount, this one just clips in. So these are 3D print. They're on Thingiverse, I believe, under my my name. Yes, it gets an actuator wire. This is just piano wire with a little Z bend in the end of it. It goes through one of the holes like this. In fact, it actually helps if it goes through the right way, as we'll find out very shortly. That then goes through the little actuator hole in the bottom of the servo mount. Yeah, I see. I just can't quite get this on because I've put it in backwards. Didn't really realise these things had a direction until I started playing with this, but there we go. So just put the little servo horn back on, back in the middle. As you can see, the wire goes through the little hole in the bottom, and using the wonderful principle of leverage, as the servo moves, as we will see shortly. Come up here, hopefully, anytime. There we go. See, and as this moves, as the servo rotates one way, moves the arm the other, and as you can probably guess, this gets bolted on the underside of the baseboard. The piano wire goes up through a hole into the hole in the middle of the point motor, and that's how we make that work. So let's get these things fitted. Yeah, so here we are back at the underside of the board. Servos points 1 and 2. I'll do point 2 first. As you can see, there's a little cross marked on the bottom of the board. This is where the mount goes. The vertical line, or the slightly off vertical line, is the centre line of the point, and the two little holes, the little crosses marked there, are where two screw holes need to be drilled to secure this into place. Hopefully, this puts the centre hole in the little mount over the base of it. Yeah, so here we are now, and as you can see, I've just drilled a couple of little pilot holes over those two little side crosses. Accuracy helps here. These aren't perfect, unfortunately. The actual holes through the board aren't perfectly aligned with the points either, which is a bit annoying. And then this is probably the fiddliest part of the whole operation, is trying to get these screws in. So these go in, just one of them a little bit loosely, just get it to bite. And then we can rotate the little plastic servo housing round, get that lined up. This one is then extremely awkward to do. Apologies here with the camera, not really being able to see a lot of this. These You don't have to get these exactly aligned. It's a lot easier because it means the servo can go in the midpoint. It should be roughly in the middle. If it's off-centered, it still works. You've just got to adjust the servo ranges. So that's that one in. And we got on there. It's reasonably firm. We'll just mount the other one then and back in a mo. Yeah, so that's both of these mounts now in place, and next job is obviously just checking they're a little bit secure, and then we can fit the servos. Yeah, so here we go. Now the servos, they have to have the wire fitted first. So this goes through this little hole like this, and then there is a various level of messing around at the other side trying to get this to actually line up with the hole in the point. It does go in eventually. It just takes a little bit of faffing. This is much easier to do with the board on a desk like this rather than trying to be underneath it. Not least because if I let go of the wire at this point, it stays where it's put and doesn't just fall out. So the idea here, overlong wire, goes in, slide it through. Once it's in place, can be pushed up here a little bit like this. And then we're ready to actually stick the servo in, which comes up very shortly. Now, as we saw on the bench, the idea here is the wire is now through the hole in the point. The servo horn is attached to the wire, so now I can just bring the servo in. Obviously my hand's in the way a little bit here. The first thing you do is check this is all going to work. The servo then goes in from the back, which is just a clip in. Sometimes it takes a little bit of fiddling. They're a little bit tight, but they need to be at least moderately tight in order to hold them in place. There are some little clips on the back. The servo horn is then fitted onto the front of the servo, and basically that's it. It checks it goes through the back of it. Usually a case of just give it a little bit of a wiggle. So here we go, and just sort of checking the range of movement and checking that actually moving the point. And yeah, that's that. Right, next up before we fit the second servo is to just test this and make sure it actually works. So here's the camera repositioned around the front. And as the servo gets wiggled, in this case by hand, as you can see, the arm moves from side to side, and lo and behold, the point blades move, which is rather good. The wire is obviously a little bit too long. What the next process basically is mark this where it needs to be cut, remove the servo horn, take the wire off, cut it, refit it, and then I can bend the wire and get on with the next one. So that's the next job. Yeah, right, and now we're back, and what we've got here is both point servos installed, both sets of wire cut. As you can see, they do actually both work. There's that one as well, and then the first one again, now with the wires cut back to a suitable size. So that all's sorted. All that's left to do now is put the board back in place and then test it with trains. Now, as anyone who remembers the old Halfords manuals, are they even still a thing, will know, reassembly is the reverse of disassembly. So we start off with just sticking a bolt just loosely in the hole, not all the way through. I just want it resting there. This is basic so I can just push it through later. And what we're going to do is bring the board back in, as the camera hopefully positioned so that this doesn't get knocked, and put this back in. The other side it can rest on the ledge. This side there's no ledge, so here we come, sliding gently back in, trying not to damage anything in the process. And we can come around the back of this and we can just push the bolt through, and obviously that's slightly easier said than done. Just wiggle it a bit, move the board around slightly, and it goes through. There we go, that's that. That's now held at this end. There's a little bit more work to do here, obviously, because all these other bolt holes need doing. I'll be back in a sec. Right, so now we have the board back in, a little bit of fiddling, a little bit of faffing. It's all back in, the bus wires are reconnected, the layout's powered up, nothing's shorted out, multimeter testing is done. So let's run a train over it. Now obviously the servos aren't powered, so we're only going for the dead ahead route here. But we've lined a couple of trains up, and this just proves it does actually all work. So here's the lovely Hornby Q6, and the unlined black is this little freight locomotive, rumbling around here relatively slowly past the signal box, It's a lovely looking little loco, this one. So this is now onto the new board. This bit all works, which is rather good. Goes over the points, can obviously, as I said, only go in the straight ahead direction, but the beauty of this is this actually does show, lo and behold, it is actually wired up correctly. So that just rumbles forward. It can't go much further, as we've only got this 3 foot section of board, so run it backwards again. And this is the outer track being tested. Oh, sorry, no, this is the inner track. Yes, the outer track's coming up in a sec. And we will bring a different locomotive up on the outer track. So, see this one coming round as well. This one has to be run a little bit more slowly. There's actually a slight dog leg as turned up in the track. So we'll run this one, and as the Hornby Scotsman rumbles round, stops very, very slightly in an area. This is on the other track, and this one rumbles round quite nicely, and can again run back down again. So success, really. And just because who doesn't like running trains, here we are with a slightly higher angle shot, so you can actually see the track a little bit better. And we're going to run some trains around again. So here comes the Scotsman, or lovely looking little loco. This is noted the railroad one. I will at some point do some better pictures of these. I'm actually planning on getting a different camera in the not too distant future, one that can actually focus slightly better. So here we go, as you can see, rolling straight over the board join. Rumbles off down here around the past the bits of wire. This will eventually, of course, have a tunnel portal on it, closer to the signal box, and all of that gubbins back there is nicely hidden. But this is where the trains are, so let's get the wire out of the way and we can actually see what's going on. Should have done that first, sorry. But there we go. We can bring the I believe the Q6 is the next one back up to rumble back round again, which is rather nice. This slope should be about a 1 in 50 due to slightly inaccurate woodwork. As you can still see the bit of a gap in the support line there. It's actually closer to 1 in 25. This section of track actually really could do with relaying and is likely to be lifted at some point, but I'm going to do more of the basic track work before this. So again, we can come forward. The trains look a little bit ridiculous on that curve, but it will be hidden. Most of the curves you can see on the layout are going to be a lot shallower than that. And here we go over the crossroads, and this is all with the relays unpowered. So the default running direction is this. The servo motors are also unpowered, but there's enough friction in them to hold them in the appropriate direction. So really, this is a little bit of basic testing. The other track needs a little bit more work. I've not actually run anything over the alternative direction yet. The joins are okay. The M8 bolt alignment isn't perfect. They go in. They need a little bit of work just to get them actually lined up. The inner track isn't actually stuck down brilliantly either, so when this area gets relayed, I'll sort that out. But for now, that's about it. Yeah, for the points testing. Of course, we still have the block detection. So what I did is I went down under here and just connected up a 5-volt supply and ground, a couple of very temporary wires just into the connector on the DTC8 board. The aim here is I just wanted to see whether this actually worked when I powered it up and we rolled trains over it. So there's 8 little red LEDs on there. We should be seeing a few of them start to come on now as I'm now going to run the trains backwards and forwards on the 2 lines. So there we go, we've just entered in on junction 2. That should then go over and light up number 3 for memory serves as the train proceeds, as it moves from the point section onto the diamond. But I was quite pleased at this point that these lights actually came on, because this sort of implied I actually wired the thing up correctly. So yeah, carries on there, so it's still in that. This board's rather wonderful. There's a little it's basically a timer circuit, so when the train leaves the section, it's got about a second before it registers it's left. So what you find is all the little glitches where it loses power for a fraction of a second, this board just nicely smooths out. So there we go, we're running back, and then we're running back in the reverse direction again. This works quite nicely, so yeah, very pleased with that. And that's it for this time, and I will be back in the next video with the sorry tale of trying to power these points up. Noted now we've also got a grand total as I speak this of 14 subscribers, which is yeah, quite incredible actually for the level of quality on this channel. Feel free to leave any comments, likes, upticks, requests, and I'll see you in the next one.